New developments tonight in the fatal shooting of Renee Good in Minneapolis yesterday, a tragedy drawing national attention, very heated political debate. The 37-year-old mother of three was shot and killed by an ICE agent yesterday in a residential neighborhood where her car was partially blocking the street. ICE officials claiming the agent acted in self-defense, a statement echoed today by President Trump, who called the woman a, quote, professional agitator, and DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, who labeled her as a domestic terrorist. Noem maintaining today the agent, quote, followed protocol. But critics and community members are questioning whether deadly force was justified. And fueling public mistrust, the FBI's decision to take over the case, blocking the state of Minnesota from joining this investigation. The FBI alone will now determine whether the agent's actions were justified. We turn now to our King 5 law enforcement analyst, former King County Sheriff John Urquhart, to help us unpack sort of what this could all mean. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate it. I first just want your reaction to what's happening right now in Portland with two people shot by federal officers just in the last couple of hours.
Well, obviously the timing is terrible. It's only been about 3 hours. We don't know what went on. It was Customs and Border Protection. That may be a distinction without a difference compared to ICE. We just don't know. But two people went to the hospital, survived at least so far, a man and a woman. And that's really all I know anyway.
Let's talk about this case out of Minnesota. The Vice President Vance today blamed the far left for attacks on law enforcement in general, calling Renee Good's death, quote, a tragedy of her own making. You've seen the videotape from all angles, I'm assuming by now.
Yes.
What did you see?
I saw a woman that apparently was trying to get away for whatever reason, turned her wheels and accelerated forward. There was an agent that was in front of her car, at least temporarily. He fired one shot, and then the car went past him, and as it did, he fired two more shots right through the passenger window, and that's probably the shots that killed her, I would think.
What did you make of what you saw?
I didn't like it. I didn't like it.
What was wrong in your view?
Well, let's start with what the shooting policy is for the Department of Justice, per the Department of Justice, for all of their police agencies. And they say that policy says you do not shoot at a moving car, period. The only exception is if the car is trying to assault you or hurt you, obviously, and then only if you can't step out of the way. Clearly, he could step out of the way, get out of the way, because he did, at least for the second two shots.
This particular officer 6 months ago, it was reported today, and the Vice President reiterated this, had been in a situation where he was dragged almost 50 feet by a vehicle, had 35 or more stitches in his leg. This is the same officer who also has about 10 years of immigration enforcement experience. So based on that, are those factors in how he might have reacted?
Oh, conceivably, and hopefully the investigation will see if that was a factor or not. In that particular situation, again, he had bad tactics. He put his hands inside the car and got trapped and got dragged then after that. Again, tactics are a big part of this and looking at what he did. And the Supreme Court, actually Trump's Supreme Court, has said that when you look at an officer-involved shooting, whether criminally or civilly, you have to look at all the objective evidence that occurred, not just that moment in time, everything that led up to that. So conceivably, it could be the tactics that he used.
The Vice President said that these federal officers have total immunity, that this officer in this case, which only the FBI is going to investigate, which they said today will be the sole investigator of this, that this officer has absolute immunity.
I have no idea where that comes from. I don't think it's true. I absolutely do not think it's true. Other federal officers have been charged with crimes in the past, and acing out the state of Minnesota is a huge mistake. How are we going to believe the results of this investigation based on all the misinformation, if not outright lies, that have come down from the federal government in the last 24 hours? How are we going to believe that that investigation is transparent, honest, and was done in the best way it possibly could? That's a huge mistake for them to ace out Minnesota. They didn't even do that with the Charlie Kirk homicide. When he was killed, they let the local officials, as they should, do a joint investigation with the FBI.
And big picture, what message does it send to ICE officers and law enforcement who are trying to stay safe, and also those on the other side, people who they're trying to pick up that they say are breaking the law. I mean, what is your advice to both sides?
Well, certainly cooling the rhetoric is one thing, but it shows the ICE officers that the culture that is now out there, and we see that every single day, the culture out there allows them to operate with impunity, at least so far. You know, Joyce, I think this is going to be a watershed moment, very similar to 50 years ago on May 4th, 1970 at Kent State. That was a watershed moment, the killing of those students at Kent State in the Vietnam War. I think this is going to be a watershed moment for all the enforcement that's going on right now. This story is going to be around for a while, as well it should.
And what should be the takeaway if this is a watershed moment?
The takeaway should be that hopefully the federal government cannot operate with impunity. That's got to come out of this, and we'll see what happens. We don't know yet. The last chapter is yet to be written.
And the investigation is just beginning, regardless of what people say they believe happened, whether it's the White House saying for sure that this was justified and others who look at the videotape saying that's not at all what they see. The investigation is just starting, so we don't really know.
One thing we do know, she was not a domestic terrorist.
Yeah, we do know that. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it. Sheriff John Urquhart with us today.